Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ask an Atheist. I'm your host, Ethan, and alongside me is my guest tonight, John. John, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. Are you excited?
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you,
My
is
story.
this your first ever on-camera interview or no?
No.
Oh man, I thought I was popping your cherry for a second.
No, it's not. I spend a lot of time online. Usually my topics aren't the main focus, though. We work with musicians, so it's a lot of...
Well, tonight the focus is you, your beliefs, your upbringing, and your experiences. So as long as you're okay with that, we're going to have a great show.
All right.
So I guess my first question is, it's the most basic one. Were you raised an atheist? Did you become an atheist? Can you walk me through that process?
I was born in the United States, but I wasn't raised in the United States.
Okay.
By the time I was probably about 12, I had moved 19 times.
19?
By the time I was 12, yes. First place, Venezuela, Aruba. First musical instrument I bought was an Aruba, steel drum. Then actually next was Iraq. By the time I was 12, the longest I had lived anywhere was in Iraq. Went through Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, lived in Basra for 6 months, and then Baghdad for a year. At that point, a year in, Iran decided to bomb the refineries that my father worked on and the compound. So people that we knew, people that I loved, people that I dealt with, a lot of them lost their lives at that point. So, at that point we got on a plane, went off to Germany, spent a lot of time in Europe, but Iraq was big for me. One of the stories that I can remember the most is the Marsh people, who was also very destroyed by Saddam, but they were the nicest people in the world, and they would do anything for you. I actually brought a Polaroid camera, took pictures of them. They had never seen what they looked like, so I never kept a Polaroid because I gave it to them all.
Oh.
So you just couldn't keep it. They'd never seen themselves. So it was just like an experience in Baghdad. I loved it back then. It was beautiful. Loved it.
I never even thought about something like that. The thought of actually never seeing yourself, that was generous of you to give that away. But wow, I've never even because I've always grown up in a life where we could take pictures of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. And this was a Polaroid camera at the time. I haven't used a Polaroid in years, but yeah, I just couldn't keep it. The cutest thing was them actually, when I took the picture of the first kid that was basically my age, I was 5.
Okay.
So I'm just taking the pictures. I took the pictures of the first boy, and he didn't understand what he was looking at. But, I couldn't speak Arabic. I could speak Spanish and English already from Venezuela and Aruba, but I couldn't speak Arabic.
Okay.
You could tell from them, manners and body language, that he didn't understand that was him on the picture.
Really?
Yeah, he had no clue. He just knew it was a figure. It was a picture of a person. He didn't know it was him. So his friends had to go, no, that's you. And so they all wanted a picture taken of them so they could see what they look like. So what did it come into I don't even know how many pictures it was, 12 to 24 pictures in the Polaroid camera back then. I don't know how many I took, but every picture I took, I never kept. I gave it to them, because they were so enamored by actually getting to see themselves.
Right.
The Marsh people were treated very harshly by the country.
Can you expand on that a little bit, or is that not something you want to get into? If
you don't want to get into it, a lot of people don't understand that there's several different types of Muslims. And right now with the political atmosphere, what I have a problem with is thinking that everybody in the Middle East, because that have been to Syria, Egypt, Kuwait, Iran, Muscat, Oman, and Iraq, and been all over those places. Everybody here, they don't know that there's different kinds of Muslims and Muslim people. The other day, really, my Habibi, my brother, Omar, to this day, he's my closest friend. He saved my life. He lives in Baghdad now. He's a wonderful musician. You know, he's had his own trek. We talk about religion and everything else. I mean, we're brothers. So
I think Omar's in the chat right now.
I believe he probably is. And he knows what I mean by Habibi. So that's basically Arabic for my brother.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he's probably the person I'm most closest to, other than my wife. So, yeah, we just have this connection, and he did save my life.
That's
So,
all.
yeah, I mean, I traveled all my life.
So that bringing back to my question, were you raised religious, Christian, Muslim? Like, how were you?
Not at that time. Not at that time. That time, I mean, getting out of Iraq during the bombing, go to Germany, spent some time in Berlin, you know, and then moved all over Europe, lived in Birmingham, England. I'm going to say something about Steve Ignorant from Crass, because music was always a part of my, like, interest, no matter where I get. And there was always kind of different kinds of music, but religion was not even a thing to me. They didn't teach me about the Muslim religion in Iraq. Yeah, because in Iraq we were held in like a compound guarded by people with machine guns, just like Venezuela. You know, I mean, definitely had AK-47s pointed at my face if I did the wrong kind of movement. You know, from when I was 4 in preschool, when I was 5 in Iraq, and 6. You know, so that was like normalcy. But I never really was taught anything about religion, because that's not what we do. I was trying to like move from country to country to country and adapt to every single different atmosphere. Have I seen everything? I just didn't understand it. When I came back to the States, or like to me, I don't remember being in the States much before.
Okay.
So when we went stateside, all of a sudden, you know, my parents decided that they wanted us to go to high school, you know, in the area that they grew up in Chicago. Father right outside of Chicago, my mother south side of Chicago. So they wanted us to go to school there, and they put me in a Catholic school.
And what age was this at?
At this point, I was in 7th grade.
Oh, okay. I went to a Catholic school starting in 6th grade.
Okay. That was your first visit to a Catholic school, 6th grade?
That was. And you know what? I have nothing negative to say about it, but
I have everything negative to say about
you. So I want to hear your experience.
Well, religion was never the thing that was forced on me or talked about. You know, it was nothing. You know, even though we were in countries at times that, might have practiced Christianity, might have practiced this or this form of this. You know, it's like I just try to like adapt to every situation as a child.
Okay.
I was always the new kid, so I was just trying to like mimic their accents, mimic the talking, try to fit in everywhere I went.
Oh, wow.
You know, and try to pick up on the language, try to get with it. I mean, obviously, you know, around Europe, you know, it depends on what country. You know, some of you are speaking German, picked up a lot of German. You know, never picked up in France, and I never could speak French. But, you know, we weren't there that long. I mean, sometimes I'd live somewhere for 3 months, you know, told we were going to live there for a year, and then, you know, a couple months later we'd move. We were always moving, you know, constantly. And so when they said, okay, we're going to get like a little established, you know, in the States, at least for like the high school years, but started off in 7th grade, sent me to a Catholic school. And I excelled in every subject. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I got a lot of education outside of this country. Tell you the truth, sorry to say.
No, don't be sorry. Honestly,
But
I think people who get education elsewhere often learn more than we do in America.
yeah, I mean, I thought I'll just, you know, like skip a lot of it and say, that the biggest problem I had was going to church Wednesday and Sunday and religion class. And that the
Oh, like
teacher,
a CDC
that the
type
principal was like a nun. No, because
thing? Or not CDC, sorry. I
you're
forget what it's called.
you're thinking CCD.
CCD, thank you.
Right, that kind of like training. That's what you're thinking of. But no, I didn't really have to go through CCD. The school was supposed to teach you everything about it, and it had religion class, and Wednesdays there's mass, and Sundays there's the whole family mass. And then all of a sudden, this is being forced upon me. It's like I've been taught to read, I've been taught science. My father was a chemical engineer, a designer, a builder. I mean, he built the refineries in Venezuela and Iraq. So he was quite a genius. So that's how I kind of like learned all those like years, logic, science, music, math, they all fit together. Religion came into play, and I was just like, no sense. And it's just like, well, you're an avid reader, read this book. So I tried to read the Bible for the first time, like from beginning to end.
And at what age did you say this was?
7th grade.
Okay.
So I tried to read this thing, and it was just like, I'm sorry. My first instinct was that this is a load of crap. I couldn't get with it. And then what they would preach in Catholicism, like the biggest thing that annoyed me was telling me that if you don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, you're going to go to hell. And that's what they were teaching me in the school. Now I'd come from all these countries of all these people and all these different religions and known people that had passed away, that had been brought up in different situations and different religions.
Okay.
Kids, and stuff like that. But how were they supposed to know that they were supposed to believe in Jesus?
Right.
So it didn't sit well with me.
Okay.
So I bought. And I had a big problem with it. And I started to think that I knew more than most of the teachers, except for the history teacher. The history teacher was good. The rest of the teachers was pretty much shit. But it was basically I was getting into fights. I was ready to rebel against this. And I ended up, what they said, I hit a teacher. All I did was swipe her hand off my neck. That's all I did. I didn't hit it. But I still got kicked out of the school anyway. And then...
Really?
Yeah.
What was their justification? Like, what did they say to you?
Well, because I was not very fun in religion class. And because I was fighting, and getting into fights and arguing with teachers. And always being a constant annoyance. There's a lot of other stuff that I did that I'd rather not say. But
that's fine.
I definitely did all kinds of stuff to force myself to get kicked out. And that one was the final straw. But I didn't actually hit the teacher. I just didn't want to touch my neck.
That's understandable. He or she should not be touching you without your consent.
That's kind of how I took it. And I wasn't used to that. So I reacted, got kicked out of that. Went to Bible school. Perfect. Straight A's, no problems. No religion class. Then I started high school. And then I decided, with everything I've learned, all the music and everything I learned and everything I've been put through, I'm just going to be myself, which clashed with everybody because, yes, I was the punk, punk rocker, alternative, or whatever you want to call it, weird hair, doing all this weird stuff. I was also a computer geek at the same time because my father was a scientist.
Computer geek.
Yes. Yeah, I knew DOS before most people.
Oh, DOS! Oh my God, DOS!
Yes.
Do you remember? I'm sorry. Can we nerd out for a second? Do you remember PK Zip?
Yes.
Oh, no way! No one remembers that.
Nobody
I
remembers
remember being so obsessed with it, where you had to because floppy disks only hold 1.44.
Exactly.
You had to PK zip it and enter all these commands to get it to go to multiple
But
floppy
you remember
disks.
the big floppy disk that you had to cut the corners out to make them recordable?
Yes, I remember those too. Those were, oh, I forgot what they're called though.
Apple IIc time. Well, they were floppy disks, but they were like the 5.0.
Right, they were different floppy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember zip drives too? When it was 100 megabytes, and that was like, oh
Of
my
course.
god, this is a big deal. 100 megabytes.
My father brought every new computer. We started off with the Commodore 64, then we went to the Apple IIe, Apple IIc, the Atom computer. I don't know if you know or remember anything about the Atom computer. That thing was a
I do.
big flop, and the dot matrix printers and everything like that. And that was when hacking was so easy, and because
It was. I hacked my local library. Not that I'm proud of that, but I did that.
based on my father's employment, I hacked into NASA.
Wait, say that one more time.
In the 80s, yeah, I hacked into NASA.
How did you do that? Or should we not talk about that?
Should we not talk about that?
Okay, we won't talk about it. That's fine.
Right. I had help.
That's wild. Okay, so you got me beat on a computer nerd scale.
Yeah, but I mean, hacking was like really easy back then. Now it's like, I'll just stay away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hardly a crime back then. There wasn't even the laws in place.
No, there wasn't. You could basically do whatever you wanted. There was nothing in place.
Exactly.
So, this is kind of early on in this interview to ask this question, but because we have this audience question so early on, I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
This person is asking where atheists get their morals from. You're obviously an atheist. You're on an episode of Ask an Atheist. Where do you get your morals from?
Experience from being with people and seeing how good people can be. The biggest misconception people have in this country, there's so many, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people that are just not that bright in this country, in the United States, that there's good people everywhere, and when you treat them right, you get treated right, you treat people with mutual respect. You don't need it from the basis of religion. Some people do. I don't have any problem with people that believe in religion. Like I said,
Right.
my best friend, we debate about religion all the time, go back and forth about it. And I have no problem with anybody that uses religion in the correct way. And the problem is too many people have used religion for excuses, for war, violence. My belief is better than your belief, rather than, that kind of stuff. It just, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many people that know the religion or know things about the religion, pick the little parts that fits them, mold it,
Cherry picking.
And just mistreat what the teachings are. Morals don't have to come from religion. That can just come from being a good person and knowing that hurting people, is wrong. You don't want to be hurt. I mean, that actually is from the Bible. Treat other people like you want to be treated. But I mean, that's a basic concept that
it is.
To me,
if
it's
you
common
don't want to be
sense.
hurt, don't hurt somebody else. It's super simple. And I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, John, if you don't want to hurt someone, or if you don't want to get hurt, you don't hurt them. It's a very simple concept, and we shouldn't need a God to tell us that. Would you agree with that statement, or would you disagree?
Most definitely. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe that there's anything to it. I don't want to insult what other people believe. I think a lot of times belief is very good. It has helped a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. I won't deny that.
Guidelines, and that's good for them. It's good that they found that, the ones that treat it and use it correctly. But for me, as a belief, I'm more of a science person, and I do believe in science. And when it comes to, I've read just about every single book, Bible, Quran, Torah,
Oh, you read the Quran too? I didn't get through it, but I did read some of it.
Well, I read the English translation, which to me is
say it.
problematic. So my brother, Omar, is actually teaching me how to read it in Arabic so I can get the true meaning.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone to. I mean, I know that things get lost in translation.
Oh, of course.
And I want the beauty of that language, to hear it and understand it the right way. So he's been teaching me, how to read the Quran the correct way.
Did I misunderstand you, or is your friend Omar a Muslim?
He can tell his own story.
Okay, that's fine.
He's a musician, a very unique musician. He's a writer, creator, and he's about the most different type of person than you'll expect to meet. But he lives in Baghdad right now.
He sounds like someone I would want to talk to.
Yeah, you might want to discuss things with him.
Omar, if you are watching, I did see you comment earlier. If you're still watching, I would love for you to reach out to me on Facebook. Katie or John can provide you with my Facebook. I would love to talk to you more because I'd love to hear your side. But with that being said, why would you consider yourself an atheist? What prevents you from believing in God?
I consider myself more of an agnostic atheist,
Okay.
because nobody really actually knows.
Exactly.
So the thing is, there's with religion, I have quite a few problems. The hypocrisy, the different things that they say, telling me the people that I loved were actually going to go to hell because they didn't believe Jesus. They never even learned about Jesus. I mean, we know, and even in Muslims, Isa is actually Jesus. It's in the Muslim religion. The Jewish Orthodox, I had one of the greatest men in the world, German Jewish Orthodox person who worked at an assisted living facility that I did security at, and we became friends, and he was teaching me Yiddish. And so I said to him, I'm like, you sound like you're just speaking German wrong. Because a lot of it was just like a different pronunciation between German and Yiddish. But no, he explained everything, and he took a lot of time with me. But at that time, I was young enough that the people that were in assisted living actually were Holocaust survivors as children. So I got to talk to them too. And I got to know this man, and I had a big problem with anybody telling me that if he didn't believe in Jesus, this man lived for God and was like the best and nicest person in the world. This guy's going to go to hell? I can't believe in a God like that. So, I get more scientific. The problem with, I believe in science. The problem with science is if somebody gets too caught up in their own theory or hypothesis, no matter how educated that hypothesis might be, if they drop the A/B testing process and they try too hard to push towards their belief, well, they're gonna prove it. They're just not gonna disprove it. The Bible cuts all that out. You're just supposed to believe. You're just supposed to believe with blind faith. No, I don't think so. Another problem I have with religion is if this God, this big person in the sky, created all human beings.
Right.
Why is every bit of scripture written by a male and never a female, except for one woman with Christian Science who said she spoke to God, but men said, no, you can't put that in. So she dummied it down. It's like, it's all written by men. God spoke to Moses, but he didn't tell Mary Muslim, that I'm going to give you the birth of my child. No, sent the angel Gabriel. Couldn't speak, but he could speak to Moses and says, save my people. Why? Jewish people are your people? No, all people are your people. Then you create everybody. And like, none of it makes sense. And when they started telling me in church that the Catholic religion believes that when this priest does the stuff over the host and the blood, it's like this becomes the actual flesh and blood. And so it's like, well, that sounds really disgusting to me. I can't believe people believe that. You know, it didn't make sense to me because it came to me like so later. You know, it was forced upon me later when I was like, no, none of this makes sense to me. You know, so I started questioning everything, balking against everything that was being forced upon me. And so I actually studied it and learned. And I learned about a bunch of different religions. You know, and I just came up with science, you know, A/B testing and scientific theory. They can't prove a damn thing in the Bible. I also have a problem with the fact that women have no part in it, have never written anything, and that's
Well,
a big problem.
women in the Bible are treated like second-class citizens.
Yeah, but God created both. I mean, you could even go back to like Adam and Eve. Who's the bad guy? You know, Pandora's box. You know, Greek phenomenon. Who's the bad guy? It's always the female. Why? You know, if he created both sexes, you know, why is one inferior to the other? You know, and this whole thing about the soul. I have a big problem with this.
Same.
Okay. You know, so say, because I'm agnostic too, so I don't know. But say there is a soul. I know that science, when the body dies, the brain dies. The brain stores all your memories, your personality, and who you are.
Right.
So once that is gone, your soul might move on, but not with those memories. Even religions that believe in reincarnation, you don't remember the person you were before. So it's like, what do I care? You know, like, I don't care if I have a soul or not. I'm not going to know.
Right. It's
Really?
funny you mentioned this because this was the topic on my Facebook just the other day, and how, like, if you get into heaven, you just forget everything. Well, I don't know about you, John, and I don't want to speak for you, so let me know your thoughts on this. But
I think Greek
to
things.
me, if there is a heaven, like, as much as I'd like there to be one and see my brother again,
It's great in movies.
right, exactly. It's a great concept, but is it real? And the thought of, like, going to heaven, losing all my memories, forgetting all the people I loved, all the relationships I have, that sounds more like hell to me than heaven. I don't know.
Exactly.
What do you think? I want your thoughts on this.
Well, because what's going along with your same thought process? You wouldn't even know that is your brother. I know what happened to your brother. You know, I've read your stuff, you know, and I understand. But if both brains are gone and that stores all of who you are, those two souls, maybe they would, but you wouldn't know it. You personally wouldn't know it. You know, your souls, I don't know what happens. You know, that's why I don't know what happens afterwards. I mean, I know that we're still made up of molecules and we leave energy behind, you know, everything. Once the brain dies, I don't really give a shit if my soul goes on because who I am is gone. And so even like people that say go to heaven, you know, oh, Hitler, you know, bad person. Stalin killed more than Hitler did, by the way. But at the same time, Hitler, oh, he must be burning in hell. Really? He wouldn't have any concept of that if he didn't have his brain. So he didn't even know why he's in hell.
Right.
None of it makes sense.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
You're supposed to have blind faith and stupidity to me. You know?
Well,
I'm
that's
sorry
a
to
little
say that.
harsher than I would say, but that's okay.
That was a little bit much because I really do respect other people's beliefs.
No,
But
I'm
to
the same
me,
way.
it sounded that when I was growing up, it sounded like, really? I'm supposed to buy that? Like, I'm
Right.
supposed to believe this stuff?
I know it's hard, and I did. So I'm a little envious of you because you clearly caught on to this at a younger age than I did. It didn't happen to me until my adult years. So whenever I meet critical thinkers or atheists that were atheists at a young age, I'm envious. I feel like I'm behind the curve. So major props to you for catching on at such an early age.
I don't. I mean, I guess I didn't take it that way because when it was forced upon me, I thought, like, this is just another culture I have to adapt to.
Okay.
You know, because I had been to all these places, so it was just another religion. I didn't know I was atheist. I didn't know much about religion at all. You know, but all of a sudden now I'm in a different culture, and now I'm supposed to believe this. But now I'm not buying it. Now I'm old enough, you know, to like
So,
Not,
do you,
not
if you don't mind my asking, do you hold any supernatural beliefs like psychics, mediums, souls, spirits? Like, are you a complete naturalist? I think that's the correct term, naturalist. Cosmic Kyle, you're in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or are there supernatural opinions you do have?
you know what? I wouldn't put it on a religious level. Let me say that there might be some kind of
Guy in the attic.
energy, you know.
Guy in the attic.
Yeah, I mean, something going on, you know. I think it might be I think it's something people conjure up, and these people that talk about like near-death experiences. I was dead after my motorcycle accident. You don't see shit.
Right.
Not a damn thing. I came back to life in 10 seconds. Heart stopped for 10 seconds after my motorcycle accident.
Wait, really? Your heart? Did you just say? Did I hear you correctly? Your heart stopped for 10
Yeah,
seconds?
for some reason, I was giving like the sacrament of what is it, final rites or whatever like that to die. And then I died. My ribs have been dug into my lungs. So I had double pneumonia, filling up my lungs with blood. Broke 12, shattered 12 discs in my back.
Oh, God.
They wanted to cut off my leg. All this other stuff. Was in the coma for 2 weeks. All this kind of stuff happened. I don't even walk with a limp now. I didn't really pay much attention to the doctors. I took a long time, but I came back.
I mean, we met in person, and I didn't notice or know any of that.
Yeah, I know. And I didn't limp.
Wow.
So, but the first doctor, right before I slipped into the coma, said, "We're going to have to cut off your leg." And this is true. I said, "If you cut off my leg, I'm going to wake up. If I wake up, I'm going to kill you."
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at your situation. I'm just laughing at your response.
Well, I was delirious. I was like, but I was just like, "You better not cut off my leg."
Right.
At the time, I meant it. Would have actually carried that up. No. But that's what I was thinking. Like, you better not. But with my leg, I went through some hard work with my leg, but hard work with my back and physical therapy and all this stuff. I mean, when I woke up from the coma, I remember the doctor looking down at me going, "There's no reason that you should be alive." The doctor telling me that. There's absolutely no medical reason why you should be alive. And it was just like, okay. Thanks. And then people ask me, like, no, I don't know. I don't, if other people say they saw certain stuff, I'm not going to dispute them or fight them. And I don't know what they saw or what they really believe or, what their heart tells them or what they see. I've never experienced any of that is all I can say. Okay. So what everybody else experienced, they could take it any way they want. But I have personally never experienced anything like that. And I've been all over the world. Had some crazy experiences. Seen the craziest stuff. And I've never seen any evidence of anything supernatural.
So, here's a question I want to get to. I'm going to answer this, and then I'll give you the option if you want to answer it or not, or if you just want to keep going forward. Spider Destroyer says, "Prove to me that you exist." I think they're directing this at me. "Prove to me that your parents exist." No one can 100% prove anything in life. Yes, I will agree with you. Nothing can be 100% proven, and I will not take any belief at 100%. I'll say 99.9%. I'll never say 100%. But the proof to you that I exist is you are literally watching me right now on a camera. I am literally witnessing myself on a camera. John can right now verify that I am on camera and witnessing me. That is evidence that I would.
Is he going for "I think, therefore I am"?
Thank you. There you go. That is the best answer when people say "prove it." Thank you for bringing that up. That's all that needs to be said on that.
But I also think personally, it's just like I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I know what I've gone through. I know what I've lived through. When I was a child, I first came to the States and tried to tell stories about the places I've been and everything like that. They'd get this glossy look in their eyes. They either couldn't relate or they thought I was a liar. Because they could not believe that I'd been to all these places and all this stuff had happened. And it was just like, why bother telling you? I don't really give a shit if you believe me or not.
Right.
I mean, I can prove it all. My wife's seen the proof. What people know. Omar's seen the proof. Other places have been things I've done. I don't have to prove it. I don't care. I don't have to prove anything to anybody.
If you don't mind my asking, we don't have to talk about this. Are you in an interfaith relationship? And again, no obligation to answer any questions. We can move on from things you don't want to talk about.
I'd say I think we agree on most things.
Okay.
The supernatural, kind of like witchcraft thing. She's Wiccan.
Oh, okay.
Which is more about Earth.
I should have known that.
Yeah, but so she's a little bit more spiritual belief than I do. I have seen some amazing, things at some points that don't make sense to me. The fact that I'm alive at that point, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. My friend Omar, knowing exactly when I want to talk to him, calling me all the way from Iraq and going, I know you want to talk to me. And I'm like, what the hell? How the hell would you know that I wanted to talk to you? Because I did. And I was about to call him, and then he told me exactly what I wanted to talk to him about. And that was exactly it. Don't know how that happened. So it's been unexplained weird things. But he knows me very well, too. So it might have been something I said or something he did that he can hear some tension in my voice or something like that. We have a very close connection.
That's awesome.
So we can pick up on everything with each other. I mean, he saved my life.
That's amazing. He sounds like a really good man.
He is. He's an amazing person. And he's an amazing person. I'll put that. He can have his own stories. But yeah, he's amazed me quite a few times.
That's great. So I don't know if it's you or if it was my last guest, but we seem to be bringing in a lot of theist trolls. Now, I hate to call people trolls because I don't want to minimize their beliefs, but it just seems like there's a lot of people making some extreme claims in the comment section. So I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it was my last guest or what, but I kind of want to address. I'm not going to address all of them, but I if you don't mind.
Please do.
This person, YFNA Atheist. Atheist is simply I don't believe you. Oh, really? Is this why atheists believe in morals? Okay, so if you don't mind, John, I'll address it first, and then you say whatever you want to say. Atheism is simply only one thing. I don't believe in a god or gods. It has nothing to do with morals. It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with astrology. It is simply, I don't believe there is a God. If you want to talk about morals or ethics, we can talk about those. But morals or ethics have nothing to do with atheism. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I've known too many people who have grown up absent any kind of religion that had the same exact morals as me. Same ones. You don't need to be taught that. Maybe in the old days they used religion as a form to govern, keep women down. Obviously, it's misogynistic as hell.
Yeah.
So it was a way to kind of hey, if you're charging in a battle, don't worry. You're going to go to heaven. You're going to go to this place. Don't worry. Don't worry about dying. Way to solve people's fear about death and a way to govern them with rules. But I didn't need religion to tell me those rules.
Right?
Never did. Everywhere I lived, everywhere I went, I had never even heard about it before until I came to the States. But I had the same morals. I was a good person. I wasn't going crazy and killing people. So it's that's, to me, it's just common sense.
It should be that. It should be common sense to just be nice and to be good. And yet, it at times it gets hard not to be jaded against believers, but when they sit here and overcomplicate morals or try and say atheists don't believe in anything or atheists are evil or atheists don't have morals, it's like,
I challenge them to prove one thing that they believe factually, scientifically.
thank you. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Not only that, but it's not that hard. Like, if I have to explain to you on how you need to be nice to people, then I'm sorry, I don't necessarily respect your intelligence that very much.
Exactly. I think that in some cases, religion is very good for the feeble-minded.
Yes, and in some cases, religion does people a lot of harm.
Right. But also, I would say there's people that are extremely intelligent, I believe.
Oh, absolutely.
And they believe for the right reasons, but then they practice it the right way.
Right. I will never, and this is where, like, I sometimes have disagreements with certain atheists, not a lot, but certain atheists, where they will try to say, well, Christians or theists or God believers are just stupid. It's like, no, they're not. I know plenty of God believers who could run intellectual circles around you.
Yeah.
Just because you believe in a God doesn't make you a stupid person.
No, you have a strong faith that works for you, and I think you should stick with it. It's just not for me.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
I said agnostic atheist. I said, I don't know for sure.
Right.
I'm
an agnostic atheist as well. I will say I am confident there is no God, but I won't say there is no God.
Yeah, I mean, to me, once again, going back to the brain science, that kind of thing, I really don't care. If I'm not going to have my memories and carry me with me, I really don't care one way or another.
So if you wouldn't mind expanding on this, and it can be a brief sentence or it could be a long drawn out answer, however you want to explain it. How do you determine what is morally good versus what is morally bad, or ethically good versus what is ethically bad?
Well, I would say, if I was going to be completely honest with you, some of my morality can be skewed in certain ways. I've obviously gotten into fights before.
Well, we're human.
Yeah, and I do believe that either person wins the fight. We both wake up sore the next day.
Exactly.
No matter who wins.
There's no winner in a fight. Never.
So I'm not going to say that, I've never hurt anybody before, but I will say it didn't take religion for me to never cheat on one girl in my entire life. Never in my entire life have I ever dated anybody and cheated on them. And it didn't take religion to teach me that. It took my mother. My mother had she was a very strong person. Or she's still alive, so she is a very strong person. So I got a lot of morals from my mother. But she grew up very Catholic. So I got those instilled out in me from her point of view, but I also got it from life because I balked at her religion, but still picked up on the morality of the whole thing. But when you're in other countries, and you're not being taught that, and that's not being shoved down your throat, you still knew, there was no point to violence if nobody was being violent against you. There was no point to hurting anybody or doing anything. Or taking anything, or I just never really, I never needed religion, for me to know what was right and what was wrong. Some of the things I could say I've done have been morally questionable.
Same. I've done morally questionable things.
So, I'm not perfect,
But that's not the point. We aren't perfect. We don't need to try and be perfect. We just need to do our best every day. And that is my life philosophy, is every day I want to be a better person the next day than I was the day before. And I think that's a pretty good life philosophy to hold.
Yeah, I do too. But it depends on the reasoning you're doing it. Some people do it because of their faith and religion. That's a good thing. That's how they use it. Some people do it because that's what motivates them.
Right.
Some people want to leave this world a better place when they die. You know, and some people study history so they can repeat it, but cheat it and live better. I mean, it just depends on the person, you know. But I mean, some of the people that like just, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. You know, like with politics now, the people that Christian evangelists, you know, like you know, it's just like they say some of the most unchristian things in the world, you know, and the most violent things in the world, and the most hateful things in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you read that book? Because I did, and it didn't say anything about that. Now, it's always been misogynistic. I agree with that, you know, but at the same time, it didn't really spread the hate that you're spreading, and you're using it as an excuse to spread hate. That doesn't make sense to me. Racism never made sense to me either. You know, because of the places that I grew up and being around all these different cultures, all colored people. I mean, I've been all Africa, you know, Europe, you know, all over the place, all over the world here, you know, where it's just like a hodgepodge of everybody, you know. I never understood racism.
Well, this is
it makes sense to me.
I used to be a racist. I grew up, and most of the people who watch me already know this because I've opened up about it before. But yeah, I used to even though I was raised in a very conservative family, my mom, when she found out I was racist, she was not happy with me at all. And it took years of deprogramming myself and meeting people and learning more to be like, wow, like, this is such a harmful ideology and I'm so wrong and I should have never thought like that. And I still to this day live with the guilt of being a racist. Like, I was a piece of crap for thinking like that. Like, that's so wrong. That's so hateful. Like, why hate someone because of the color of their skin?
I can only say I never got it because usually where I was the minority. I was the one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point because you were traveling around countries overseas.
Right.
So yeah, you were like
I was the weird one. I was the one that stuck out. I was always the new kid, you know, who had to adapt and try to fit in. You know, I mean, I will say one thing, and it's another, I know, kind of feminist statement, but I think that every kind of group and class of people on this earth can say at one point in history that they've been persecuted. But I think there's one group that has the biggest claim, and that's women. Because since the beginning of the time, women have been degraded more than anybody else.
Say that one more time. Women have been what?
I think prosecuted, degraded more than any other group.
Yeah.
You know, any other group. So we all have it. I mean, like, Catholics had to hide for years and turn the crosses over to like hide the fact that they were like into Catholicism. You know, Christians had to do that. In England, you could just change kings and you had to like change religions, you know, and all this different stuff. You know, which religion has been so misused and abused. That doesn't make it not true for the people that believe that do it the right way, but it's been so abused. And the interpretations, I mean, the Bible was written over hundreds of years by different people. You know, it's like, how do you take that as word? I mean, Protestants will take the Bible as like total literal. When it says 40 days, 40 nights, it means 40 days and 40 nights. When really back then it just meant it's a long time. You know, but Protestants, they take it very literally. I don't understand that. But they have a very scientific way of explaining why, you know, this could happen literally, like Noah's Ark and everything. I mean, I've looked and delved into every religion and all the stories, and I know them all. Just none of them really just add up for me, because if you put it into any kind of scientific testing, nothing adds up. And when people say, well, you just got to have that faith, you just got to believe, you just got to believe in your heart, you know, you just got to read this and understand it, believe in it. No, I'm not going to do that. You know, I have too many questions. I'm too curious. I want to see it. And I've seen no proof of anything. Not by the believers, not by any supernaturals. Like I've never seen any proof.
So at there was no point in your life though that you were a believer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I never believed.
Wow. I know I said this once before, but I'm envious. I wish I was a non-believer at such a young age. But
I had a good friend that I went into a business with because we started a business. We ended up selling it for a good amount of money, but me and him together. He grew up entirely in the United States, very intelligent. Didn't know anything about religion. His parents raised him completely without religion. But morally, we had the same morals, the same thoughts. You know, he couldn't believe how much I knew about religion for being the same way I was. Like he didn't believe in any religion. He never really studied it, worried about it, thought about it, nothing. You know, so it was just nothing to him. He didn't know anything about it. I knew a lot about it, so I could pose an argument to people that were there who used to argue. You're not supposed to talk about religion and politics at work, but it happens.
I do it. I'm guilty of it.
I try so hard, you know, but when it's getting shoved in your face, and I just don't. I hate people who try to convert. You know,
Same.
I'd love to learn how you tell me why you believe this. Tell me what drives you. You know,
I love that you say
me.
that because that's what I say all the time. Tell me why you believe what you believe.
Right. And oh my gosh, the answers you get are sometimes like motivating you. You know, like I envy you for believing in it that like strongly, that this means something to you, that you go down this path and this means everything to you. I love it. I think it's beautiful, especially if you're using it for the right reasons. But at the same time, don't try to convert me.
Right.
You know, don't try to change my mind. My mind has never gone that way. And when it was introduced to me, I balked at it. So, and I've been balking ever since. But I mean, I've known people very close to me, born again Christian kind of thing like that. And they always feel like, you know, they have to shove Jesus in your face, you know. And also, even in the Christian religion, it's so weird in different countries. Christian religion is so different in different countries. They have their own versions of it. You know, it's just like, I don't know. You know, like some of these stories, it's just like, they also are paganistic. You know, the whole virgin birth thing. I mean, that actually occurred in Britannia in before they knew anything about Christianity. You know, just being pagans. That same kind of story kind of kept repeating and being repelled. It's like, I don't know, whatever. It's all folklore and stories and whatever.
So, before we wrap up here, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with? Whether it be thoughts on religion, thoughts on agnostic atheism, thoughts on morals, anything you'd like to conclude with?
The best thing I could say is no matter what you believe in, the best thing is to learn about the other person and learn not what separates you, but what actually can bring you together. Because you might believe two different things. You might be total polar opposites on your religious beliefs, but you wouldn't believe what you might have in common with that exact same person. You know, if you really get to know them as a person, you never, ever judge anybody by what they believe, what they look like, the color of their skin. Get to know them. You know?
Yes. That's like the founding principle of my channel. Get to know the person.
Yes. Learn who they are and what they're about. Now, there's some people you're going to learn a little bit and go, bye-bye. You know, but there's a lot of people, most people, that you're going to show some interest in. And that's the big thing. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to listen to the other person and accept them for who they are. That's the most important thing. And then you can make connections with other people that you wouldn't believe if you actually are experiencing and understanding and listening to who they are, no matter what they believe.
Okay.
As a human being, most people, normal people, I've learned from all these countries, they want the same thing: to be happy, to raise families, and to live well, and do the best they can.
Right.
I'm not going to say that about governments, but I will say about that by the masses and the normal people.
All right. So, is there anywhere? I don't know if you want to direct people to any social media channels you have. Is there anywhere anyone could check you out at, or?
There is, but I mean, I don't really want to take up on all these questions from people that are going to tag me.
Oh yeah, then never mind. No, it's a general question I ask every guest. So yeah, no obligation.
Yeah, I'm not going to promote anything, but people can find me.
Okay.
They know my name. John Martin says it. You can find me. You can look. You can find me. Really, I'm in the music business, in the music industry. So that's just my beliefs. That's how I feel. Mostly what I love about the music industry is I can share stuff. And there are all kinds of different beliefs, but we talk about music.
Oh, you know what? I know I said we were going to wrap up, but I actually do have another question for you.
Okay.
And let me know your thoughts on this. So when people say musicians should just shut up, not voice their opinion, just play music, that kind of drives me nuts because I don't like the idea of whether I agree with a musician or not, or an actor or an actress, whatever it is. To me, you should be able to voice your opinion. What do you think about that? Should musicians, quote, shut up and not voice their opinion? Or should they vocalize it? And regardless of what they vocalize, is it, you know what, answer that question first, then I'll get to my second question.
All right. Well, being that since I live in Birmingham, England, and the political rhetoric in punk music, industrial music, that kind of music, people do express political beliefs in their music, and their lyrics, and you could take them any way you want, but they do actually say a lot about what they believe in their music. That doesn't mean you need a grandstand, get an award and start mouthing off. But I mean, within the music is an expression of how you feel. You could hear it from the tone. You could hear it from not just the lyrics, but just from the music and what it's saying to you. If you understand it, it's going to show whether it's angry, or whether it's smooth, whether it's lost, sorrowful. Take art whatever way you want to take art. But, being from, that's where I come from, more of a gothic literature, kind of dark atmosphere. I get into a lot of punk and industrial music and stuff like that. Those expressions are there and they'll come out in their music. Doesn't mean they have to grandstand, jump up in a soapbox and tell you anything, but you'll get it.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much to my patrons who support this channel, especially Cindy PLAZA. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate your time. Don't disconnect. And everyone, make sure you like and subscribe and have a good night. Thanks again, John.